Welcome to the Bryant Stage Park this morning. Welcome to MongoDB.local, our first session here this morning. My name is Kaylee. I will be the MC here this morning, and we are so excited that you have joined us today. First up is Prashant. He will be speaking about Retrieval-Augmented generation to Supercharge retail. At the end of the session, please take a look at the QR code to provide some feedback and suggestions. We encourage everyone to participate, and don't worry, it's only 3 to 4 questions, so super quick and simple. So without further ado, we will have Prashant come up.
Thank you, Kylie. I have the spin. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So I can never tell whether you can hear me or not. So this is a bit of a weird situation. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us here with Mongo. So this morning, my challenge is to be able to not say AI several slides into the conversation. So I already broke that, but then I just wanted to start with that thing. Because as you all know that every part of the industry, every part of the, every industry, every business is beginning to look at how they can improve their business. When it comes to enterprises, they are most interested in getting the work done, making sure that they are profitable, making sure that all the environment is properly working and there are no issues with it and things of that nature. So all these technology advancements that begin to come in waves. So this is no different. What we are seeing today is going to be no different. So before I jump into any other conversation, let me start setting up the stage as when it comes to enterprises, there are 3 distinct areas that we are actually seeing that technology is being evolving. One is the assistant and automation. Assistance and automation is more like, for an example for retail, you walk into the store, then you're looking for a particular item on the aisle. So what do? You actually go and ask someone, or look for somebody who can be available there for you to come and give you where that particular item is. So automation is that when I walk into the store, can you recognize that Prashant walked into the store and he was actually on my website earlier on the e-commerce and he's looking at these items for purchase, and now he's here. He already placed an order, he's here. Can I invite him over to the customer service desk and then give him his order? So assistance and automation in retail sector goes in this manner. When you talk about online, it would be a little bit more different. So you log on to the portal or your e-commerce mobile application. What you do, how you provide that assistance and through automation is something different, right? So this is one use case. The reason why I'm going through this, and second one is the reasoning and analysis. Reasoning and analysis is all about business intelligence. You have the data sitting in your EDWs, enterprise data warehouses. You have data sitting in your operational data stores. You have information all over the place. Now you need to pull them together to say that, this is the reason why my sales hurt this last month. This is the reason why a particular item is not selling very well. This is the reason. So you're taking the data sets that you have and you're analyzing and they're reasoning so that you provide that information to your business teams to say that make changes that will make it better. And the last one is the application development. The application development is that everything that is sitting in the data needs to be consumed by some consumer. So what kind of applications that you're going to develop, or what type of features you're going to provide in your e-commerce website, or it's in your mobile application, or within the stores, the advancements that you provide within the stores. These are the 3 distinct areas. And everything starts with a use case. Without a proper use case, I have seen some spectacular failures. How many of you used Hadoop? I have seen some amazing successes and some spectacular failures. The reason for it that in a use case, I am putting all the data into my data lake on Hadoop, but then I don't know what to do with it now. This is not a new situation, right? So a definition of a use case and the category of that use case, where it falls into, understanding that is extremely important. That's why I'm spending a little bit of time on this one. And then now let me get into artificial intelligence is actually beginning to make a tremendous strides in these 3 distinct areas. All 3 use cases are becoming extremely useful, or artificial intelligence is making a big difference in assisting in all three distinct use cases. So my suggestion would be, if you're beginning to look into how, or if you're already existing, beginning to work on some artificial intelligence based solutions, you must define your use case appropriately and make sure that it's into certain area, right? And then that the next steps on what do I need to do with it now, right? So let's go into that. Now, these are some of the use cases that we are seeing across retail. And these are not the sky in the pie, wishful thinking where it is, but we're actually seeing the retailers beginning to use this technology, artificial intelligence, to be able to make these things happen. Better customer experience. What does that mean? It's a very nebulous term. Better customer experience. What does that mean actually? How can you make a difference when customer walks into the store, or how can you make a difference when you are selling a particular product? I bought a fridge from a particular retailer. I need to go online to be able to register. Can that happen automatically for me before I walk out? Because all your information is already available with the store. So things of that nature. And then later on, checking back with me after a certain time that, how is your appliance working for you? Is there anything that I can help you with, right? These are some of the very lame examples, but then the experience improvement goes much beyond that. Whether it is providing advanced information, intimation, and things of that nature. Then hyper-personalization, autonomous recommendation engine. The moment I log into the store website, it knows my transactional history, it knows my credit cards that I have, what promotions are running on those credit cards versus what's happening on the store. Then can you use the recommendation engine that automatically pulls those things up and then shares with me, right? And then real-time analytics. Order track and trace is one of the big ones, where not only for an end customer experience, but then companies are beginning to use this technology using the IoT devices to track where is my supply chain, where is my equipment sitting in the supply chain. Is it sitting in the South China Sea somewhere, or is it already across the Panama Canal, or is it how quickly am I going to receive my shipments, right? That is something that is actually being used. It's a traditional problem in the supply chain, but then this retrieval-augmented generation is making a big impact to it. To be able to put all those things together, instead of somebody going to a dashboard and running a report, it actually will begin to tell you, send a text message saying that, hey, shipment is coming. Can you make sure you have enough staff in the distribution center to get those pallets out to the stores, individual stores, right? So this is where we are seeing. And then it is becoming more of a natural language processing. You're asking a questions. You're not going to a dashboard, generating a report, looking at the report and go through all the cells and say that I need to make this decision, versus the retrieval-augmented generation-based solutions will tell you what needs to happen next. And then they will show you the evidence that here is how, this is what's happening, this is what you need to do, right? And then rapid rollout of features, especially on the code development. Retrieval-augmented generation is doing some, amazing work where you put entire Git repository into vectorized database, and then you're asking that what functions are available or APIs are available that I can use to generate this feature. So this is what we are seeing, not only in retail, but across the industries. So good, we have the use cases, we know what kind of experiences that we can enhance, and now what is happening in the real world. That is the future state, and for some enterprises, this is actually happening right now. But then what in reality is happening is that majority, 98% of the CEO says, yes, we can use AI, it is going to help me. But then only 4% of the respondents say that my data is fully accessible to enable the AI for me, right? So this is not this is not new for us. We used to have the data silos before, but now to be able to use this new tool or technology, such as AI that has come up, I need the data to be able to make appropriate use of it. This is where the challenge comes in. And 59% of the respondents in the organization say that it is completely siloed. What does that mean? That there is an operational system sitting out there in Oracle database, and there is the track and trace. The supply chain is coming in somewhere else, and my all point of sale systems are sending the data in XML format that I need to shard and put into SQL Server or whatever the case may be. So the problem is that unless you address the base challenge of the data, adoption of this technology still remains siloed, or you can use this technology, but it might not be really helpful for you. So let's jump into the classical approach of AI. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but let's very quickly go through. So your data in AI in is that you have separate infrastructures. You have your operational data systems, you have your EDWs, and you have your machine learning infrastructure separately. There is a cluster onto which you need to move the data. But then, in order for you to use the latest technology like augmented generation or the LLMs, large language models, you need to be thinking about how do I vectorize my data? So then comes the vector databases. Very similar to caching technology, Redis, and other things. You're using the purpose-driven technologies to take care of certain purpose-driven outcomes. That is vectorization of the data. So essentially what happens in this scenario, in the traditional machine learning scenario, you're moving the data from point A to point B, and then point C, which is vectorized database, and then using that vectorized database to be able to do certain things with it, right? So now let's look into, this is a typical, how many of you recognize this diagram? Don't, that's okay. This comes from National Retail Federation operational data model for arts data model. So for each one of the represents a different entity. That means that by design, last 25, 30 years, the retail industry is using this data model. That means the data is siloed by design because that's what we are all grew up with. I've been working with databases for the past 36 years, and then relational was the one that I grew up with, and that's how I know how to run my business. So this is not something that is new, but then this is what exists today. Then proprietary systems are there, separate business and analytics. You have an EDW in which you throw all your data, generate your analytics, and then you have operational system that will generate data marts that will do something else, right? So this is how it happens. The fundamental requirement for you to be able to begin to use AI is data. In a classical model, you find the data, you capture the data, you curate it, you make it ready for your machine learning model, and then subsequently you choose a model. So the challenge would be in a traditional model is going to be that it's a lot of work. At the same time, the results are unpredictable. I remember working for an airlines company where we used to upsell the seats. The model working was fantastic, 66% uptick. But then what happened? All of a sudden, 3 months later, the model efficiency dropped to 29%. It's like, what happened? Customer behavior changed. What do I need to do? I need to recognize the changes in the data sets, how customer behavior is changing. I need to fine-tune the model to compensate for that. So what that means that it was efficient when it worked, but then when the customer behavior changed, efficacy dropped. That means that I need to retrain my model with the new data set. That means extracting the data and then redoing all over this again. Now, in this scenario, you have the data sitting somewhere else, your machine learning sitting elsewhere. Now you have a third component of vector database that you need to bring in. So it becomes really complicated very quickly. So let me quickly jump into, now the whole idea here is that you need to make working with data as easy as possible. This is the premise under which MongoDB works, right? So whether you have columns and rows in table format, you have unstructured data in the form of tweets and descriptions, and then back, and then you have Prashant wearing a jacket, blazer. I want to see how this looks in yellow. Can I do that? Like you have now picturization of the visual aspects to it. And then we are actually finding something very interesting that now we are seeing that the sounds, there is a demo that you can actually see that we are capturing the sounds in the vector format. And if the sound is different than what you expect, for example, for the car engines, it will tell you that there is an issue, and we know this issue, why this sound is coming. That's where the technology is going. You need to make working with the data very, very simplistic and easy as possible. Here I'm going to now, MongoDB's AI strategy is in 3 distinct layers. How many of you follow NVIDIA? How many of you follow AMD Microsystems? So the bottom layer in here is the base infrastructure that you require. MongoDB AI strategy is in 3 distinct layers. The bottom is the infrastructure layer. hardware and servers and technology like LLMs, Anthropic, or Bard, or Gemini Pro 1.5, and ChatGPT 5. These are the ones that are actually lie in that space in the bottom layer. That's not where we operate. The second one is the tooling and data. Able to use that base infrastructure, right? You need to be, in order to use that hardware and software that is being built by these companies like ChatGPT, Microsoft, and OpenAI, and Anthropic, you need to be able to supply your data to be able to use that technology. And then the top layer is the one that is AI-powered applications, right? You're using that data set and that LLM to be able to do certain things with it, right? So the tooling and data to fine-tune your models, like, what do we do now? So bring your data to the AI models, and 80% of the real-world data is unstructured. So this is where the challenge lies. So when you take your structured data, it represents a very few aspects of your business. Like especially in retail, if I wanted to keep track of all the feedback that is coming from customers, it is important for me to keep track of Twitter feed, Facebook, all these places where customer can go and complain, right? So in order for me to act on that data, I need to be able to capture it first and then use it. Like there are some examples here. Product manuals, PDF files. Customer asks, how do I use this particular feature in my product? The fridge makes ice maker, but I can't find where the button is. Oh, it is actually hidden on the front panel, right? So these challenges are real, and we can use the technology like LLMs, large language models, to be able to solve those problems, right? Now, generative AI data layer, you have operational data, you have a singular entity that actually begins to capture the data. It could be multiple databases or singular database, but you need to have a platform that actually accommodates. And you have historical data that like customer transaction history. What was he buying? How was he buying? Where is he buying from? And then you have unstructured data. This is very important. How can we combine all three of these pieces together to make sense out of it, right? This is what AI data layer contains. Now, one of the key components to bring AI to your applications is vector embeddings. This is very, very important because the entire large language models, the comparison, utilization requires vectorization of your data. What is vectorization? It's combining all the data that I was just briefly mentioning about without having to ETL the data for where you are and vectorizing together. This is where MongoDB is excelling now. How many of you are aware that we released a vector embeddings captured within the data store, right? So the whole idea is to be able to bring your product descriptions, which is text field, and you have product images, which is actually the picture, and then you have different aspects of the product. The customer used it, but then they didn't like it. This is the product problem. That is an image that they posted. Can we combine them all together and without having to ETL that data, vectorize that data, right? This is where MongoDB excels. So, essentially what we built is, in the past, you have your data sets that your application uses. You either use, a vectorized database like Quadrant or VV8 or whatever the case may, Pinecone. There are many technologies out there. What MongoDB did is to be able to pull all together into MongoDB. That means that the moment you insert a data set, it is automatically vectorized, and it is supporting your vector embeddings. That means that instantly you can actually create a trigger to say that, oh, this product that I was selling under this SKU now has a different image. I can go immediately update that in my product catalog by looking at the differences, and you can say that these are the changes that took place, right? So it is all embedded within Mongo. And let me quickly move. LLMs made generative AI adoption easy. So how many of you use ChatGPT or Bard or anything? So you know that generating the technology or creating certain things with that is extremely simple. You call one API, you have your API key, you can do it, right? But traditional development requires all these things. LLM development reduces that. You don't need to really capture the data. You don't need to train the model. You can do all these things, right? It is making life so easy. Now, but if you do not think about the guardrails, if you do not think about the compliance, regulation, if you don't think about how these generative AI is what it is, it generates. That means that it will make up things. So it is very important to understand that when you're using generative AI, you need to have a very clear guardrails in place. What can it say? There is a concept of hallucinations, I'm sure you all know, that it will actually come up with some things that sound right. But then in reality, they are completely fictitious, right? But it sounds right because it is generating information based on what it knows. So large language model challenges are not only the data privacy and security. If you send your code out, how many of you know Samsung incident of development? Samsung actually used the LLMs to be able to enhance their code, but then they didn't realize that when you submit the code to the LLM, now the LLM owns that knowledge. And if you send proprietary documentation and code to the LLM, good luck with that one. You can't take it back anymore, right? So there are challenges with that. Data privacy and security. Ethical use. LLM can come up and say some things, it generates some text that are some kind of images that are not either historically or accurate, but then it could be completely wrong as well. How will you control that? It's a black box model. You don't know what's happening. The explainability is a concept where when you come up with a decision in your business, you need to be able to explain how did you get there. Explainability is a big issue. It becomes costly if you try to set up your OpenAI model on-prem. The beginning cost probably is it's a very high cost that you have to incur. Then complex integration. How do I pull all these things together? My data and everything together is going to be an issue. Prashant asked a question, gives me one answer. Someone else asks the same exact question in the same company with the same data, it'll give you a completely different answer because it generates an answer for you, right? How can you ensure that the consistency is there, right? These are the challenges with the LLMs. So this is where, these are some of the horrifying stories of LLM use in the early days. So all these are available on TechCrunch. So if you're curious, go and say, even companies like Gemini, Google ran into an issue with this, right? It generated racially diverse senators in 1858, where it shows a Native American and a black woman being a senators in American Congress. Imagine that. That never happens, right? So anyway, there are companies which got into real trouble with this one, especially when someone says that etiquette is not important, let's talk. And then the chat bot began to swear at the customer. So these things have happened. These are the examples that we can learn from. Now, retrieval-augmented generation will solve these problems up to some extent. What is it? It is basically optimizing the output of an LLM using the authentic knowledge that you have within your environment, right? So this is where RAG comes into play. So I have 5 minutes more. I'm going to just quickly go through. So vectors are a numeric representation of your all kinds of data, text data, image data, voice data. All these things can be vectorized and stored into your database. And you need to really think about, when I'm adopting, what kind of a data technology is really important for me that I could use. So these are some of the required capabilities. So retail use cases using the RAG technology, there are many of these that are actually in production today with Mongo. You can talk to me after the session. I would be more than happy to share with you some of our customer stories, right? And prompt engineering, this becomes very important. You need to put the guardrails. You can say that, do not give me any code. I don't want any code generated by LLM in my programs, if you wanted to do it that way. So you need to very specifically say that, stick to the facts. Don't generate anything. Don't hallucinate. Even with that, it sometimes can generate something wrong. So you need to have guardrails in place. So here is an architecture pattern that I want to really leave you with that shows that any data set that you have, you can bring into MongoDB by vectorizing it, and it will allow you to be able to use. So the consumer applications could be hundreds of consumer applications can utilize this pattern. And the next one is actually a RAG-based retail architecture. This is actually today in production with several. I mean, chatbot is the infancy. When people are experimenting with the technology, the thing they do is that chatbot, like ChatGPT, use that to be able to say that, oh, this is where the product description is. Here is how I will change it. But then the applications of this one is inputting your image, asking for similar product, or uploading your product and say that what else is available in the catalog that is similar to this product, right? So this is actually going to the much more details that I will share with anyone who wants to get this later, right? And data acquisition segmentation is very important in this piece. So how do you split your data into different chunks and things like that? There are several pieces involved in here. Now let's quickly jump into, we have Data Genie team CEO here with us. He's one of our ISV technology partners who actually use this technology to do some amazing stuff, which is that feed the data. Once you bring your data sets from wherever they are sitting, mainframe databases, your SQL servers, your different technologies, pull them together, create the configurable metric store in MongoDB. Then you need to do anomalous detection, noise reduction, storyboarding of how this fits into my entire business logic. Who needs to use this data? How do they need to use it, right? Then you begin to create your dashboards. You say that, you ask a question, the Data Genie will give you saying that, oh, these are the 10 dashboards that actually reflect this particular item, right? Then you have distinct charts that you could generate, as well as you can begin to talk to your data. In natural language processing, you can say that, what are my sales last week for this particular SKU? Or how is this particular store is doing better versus the other? What is the reason? You begin to ask these questions like you're talking to a person. With the metric store that you configured, it will have the data available to you and begin to use this. This entire thing is built using the RAG-based technology that actually is in production today with number of retailers, financial institutions, and things like that. So this is not sky in the pie. This is not something that is theory anymore. This is actually being implemented extremely heavily by many customers. So what's going to happen in the next year when we talk this talk, next year it's going to be completely, you'll begin to see the leaders and laggards, people who are adopting this technology very quickly and people who are still struggling with their BI reports. So not only this, we have another ISP called DataWorks who's somewhere in this area. You can go speak to it, which is similar technology adoption for different things that are happening. So now Data Genie gives you a capability of not only identifying your KPIs, but then factorial representation of these KPIs that are in hundreds of thousands, you can begin to monitor and then take actions against, right? So I'm just going to wrap up very quickly here that this is a lame chatbot architecture wants to really try. We have numerous Git repositories that are available for you to play with. And if you're anyone interested, I actually have a QR code here, but this is not accessible to you. What I want to share here is our SAs team, Solution Architecture team, has done a hackathon for about 1 week or 7-day period, came out with 170 different RAG-based solutions that they developed and put on the Git repository. We'll be more than happy to share them with you if there is a specific area that you are interested in, right? So talk to your rep, talk to your sales teams, and then they will connect with us. And that's my talk. And please do not forget to session. It is very important. Your feedback is extremely important for us. Would really appreciate your feedback on this. We have questions, 17 seconds, but I'm sorry. I'm here all day. Please come and talk to me after the session. Thanks a lot.